Rex the Roofer coming at you again with a few other things on your roof that you need to know about. What we're going to do is we're going to go through and I'm going to point out some of the, just the nomenclature, all the things that are on your roof. So the first thing that I'm going to point out is we'll go right up here, look up here to this area here, and you're going to see this little piece of metal right there underneath the shingle. That's what's called drip edge. Here I am in the city of Thornton, and they require drip edge on the rakes and gables, which is the area that you're looking at here. That's the part of the roof that the gutters are not attached to. And they also require it in the gutters. So when we get up on the roof, I'll show you, how that goes into the gutter and what have you, so that you'll have an idea of how that's supposed to look. And actually, by putting that in the gutters on this house, if you'll take a look up here real quick you'll see that there's a staining right here where the water used to run behind the gutter and between this fascia board, and it stained all that edge right there. Well, once we put the drip edge in the gutter, it stops that. Number one, this is a telescopic ladder. You have a lot of your other fold-up ladders, then you have your telescopics. I love the telescopics. They're nice, compact, light, and easy to carry around. And you just watch how they set up right here. Look at that. Boy, I wished I'd have had one of these 30 years ago when I first started in the business, I'll tell you. I'm going to take that bungee cord, just clip it right onto the edge of the gutter there. Bring it up underneath these notches on your ladder just like that. And now it's safe. Another thing is, if it's a windy day, you want to make sure you put that on there, because if your ladder blows down and you're stuck on the roof and there's not anybody home, you're going to have to jump off of that roof. I recommend the bungee cord. All right, one of the things I want to point out on the roof, this is what's called your head wall flashing. Head wall flashing basically tucks up underneath the siding here and comes out on top of your shingle here. And then we come in and we nail it, and then we take what's called geocell, which is a clear caulk, and then we seal all of those. Your building inspector for the city, when he comes and checks on your roof, wants to make sure that all these nail heads are all covered with the geocell caulk, all right? So now, not all of your insurance companies are going to pay to replace this like they did on this house. And in most cases, that's okay, because there's really nothing wrong with it for the vast majority of it. But this is also, if it's not fitted right, will cause a vast majority of your leaks. I find a lot of the garage leaks and things that are right there above the windows and things like that on the inside of the house, a lot of times will come from this because it was never installed correctly. The next thing on the roof is what's called your valley. And this valley is a closed valley. You have two types of valleys. You've got a closed and open. A closed valley is just like this. The first thing we did before the shingles went down is we took 90-pound rolled roofing, or you can use ice and water shield, and you can put down in your valleys. That's a requirement by any city in the country. You have to have something in your valleys in order to make sure that this is a waterproof area. Now, if it's an open valley, they're going to have metal here. It's usually a W-shaped metal that goes in this valley. I don't care for the valley metal particularly, because it just is another way for the roof to leak. A lot of those are just not as secure as a closed valley is like this. However, with your lifetime shingles, they're thicker, a lot more brittle, and so you can't do a closed-in valley. You have to use the metal, and usually you're going to use that W-shaped metal. Now over here we've got the ridge cap. A ridge cap basically is, we don't use the shingle like you can with 3-tab roofs. This is actually a dimensional 30-year Owens Corning duration shingle. Best shingle you got out in the marketplace, 110 mile an hour rated. However, with the ridge cap, you're going to actually have to use what's called hip and ridge. It's separate than shingles are. It actually costs more money, because that's where you get a lot of your wind resistance right here, is on this ridge cap. So we're going to come in and we're going to use hip and ridge on all of your ridges, and this is actually called the hip. It's just like the ridge, only it's not the peak. The ridge is the peak, and then the hip is just like this, where it comes down at an angle. So hip and ridge. Step flashing is where the flashing, which tucks up underneath the siding and underneath the shingle, whenever the roof meets the wall at an angle going down, okay? So that we put step flashing here, and as I showed you earlier, we use head wall flashing where the roof meets the wall on a flat area, all right? So that's step flashing. Now the first thing that you see right here, this is actually an exhaust cap. Exhaust caps are for your fans that are in your bathrooms and also for the hood that's above your stove in the kitchen. So that's the exhaust cap right there. Sometimes those will also be for the dryer for the washer and dryer. This is for the dryer. A lot of times you'll see those vented up through the roofs. Now when you install those, if that's a dryer vent, there's a little screen that's inside of those. That needs to come out because otherwise lint and everything else will clog up in there and can cause all kinds of problems with, carbon monoxide inside the house. So you have to make sure your roofer's aware of that. Now this is called a pipe jack. You'll usually see anywhere between 2 to 6 of these. I've seen more than that depending on how many bathrooms you got on your roof. Now pipe jack, basically that just acts whenever you flush your toilets, it keeps pressure from building up, okay? You'll notice that these are all open. It's shaped like a pipe. There'll be anything from 1.5 inches on up to the 3 and 4 inches. So, but these are all open. Rain can get down inside of it. This goes directly into your plumbing so it doesn't hurt anything, okay? But the other thing is these neoprene boots around these, I always replace these because this rubber around here, after a while in this Denver sun, usually the UVs will cause this to get brittle and crack, so when you remove them it winds up breaking anyway. So it's best to replace those on every job you do. Every house that Masterpiece does, we replace those. Now over here, this is actually what's called a turtle vent. All right, a turtle vent is real important to have whenever you're venting your roof, and the reason why is because that heat builds up in your attic. Even if you have gable vents, sometimes you need to have the roof vents because this allows that heat to escape during the summertime, keeping the attic cooler and your upstairs cooler as well. And the other thing is during the wintertime, this will let that moist air escape so that your insulation up in the attic doesn't stay moist and wet, because if it's moist and wet, it's not going to do an effective job for you. So these are some of the other little peripherals that you'll find on the house, all the things that we like to replace for you. But you'll also notice that they're painted too as well, so that they're going to blend in with the roof. That's how a professional roofer does it. You're not going to have these all silver and one color and another the other, okay? We want this to be aesthetically beautiful for you, so you got something that you can be proud of. Part of the way we turn your roof into a masterpiece. This is your furnace stack. All right, so the furnace stack, whenever we come in, now we're not going to be replacing the base of this furnace stack or the pipe itself. Not that it may not in some cases. I've been on a lot of jobs where this old pipe is all rusted through. This home's only about 15, 16 years old, so the stack is still in really good condition. Now at the top, one of the things that gets beat up the most by hail is this furnace cap, okay? We a lot of times call it a cap and collar, since it's got this little collar that bolts on around the stack pipe. So, and you'll notice that we painted all this to blend in too as well. So typically this gets all dented up here, so all we're replacing is just the cap itself, and then we paint it afterwards so that it'll look real nice and, adding to the masterpiece look of your roof, right? This is actually a safety ring. They call them OSHA rings. OSHA is the government agency. A lot of times it goes around checking for safety and everything on the roof. But you'll notice that the OSHA ring right here is attached right to the roof. And on this particular roof, there's several of those. Man, as a company, I like those, so it allows my guys with their harnesses and ropes to be able to clip off on that, keep those guys safe and prevent them from falling off the roofs. Lord knows I want to try to keep all my people safe and sound whenever they're doing any kind of work. So that's called an OSHA ring.